Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Judas. So today's Daily Run actually goes to a goal that doesn't end prematurely, and that's not something that happens often. And maybe more importantly, we're actually going to the chest. I've said it not too long ago, and I'll say it again, going to the chest has to be one of my favorite daily goals in basically the whole game, and of course there really aren't all that many I would consider my favorite, but I would say that going to Mom's Heart or going to the chest are definitely up there. And of course that is for the fact that you get a few items at the end, you also get some random items from the golden chest that you find throughout the floors, and more importantly, I feel like it does add, I would say, a nice finishing goal to it. Even if your run was weak, there's always a chance of improvement there, or even if it's already strong enough, you can pick up a few more items and maybe get some wacky synergies. And this particular run actually didn't go any other way. That's exactly what happened. At the start, it maybe wasn't all that strong, but definitely it kind of got progressively better, and in the end, it just kind of spiraled out of control. We got a lot of really good items, especially because of the Void. We were able to kind of suck some items up and get a few passive upgrades, and that allowed us to be, I would say, pretty ridiculous, but also because of Continuum, we actually had quite, I would say, a nice, a very colorful display of tears just kind of storming down on enemies from every single direction. But of course, there still were some hiccups, or I would say some obstacles that we had to overcome. The very first floor, I already made an interesting decision, which I don't think I would usually make, but I was feeling, I would say, a bit adventurous, and also I was, I guess, just a bit excitable, so I just wanted to say, let's just do something crazy, and this is, my idea of partying. But what I'm trying to say here is, so the very first floor, I actually had enough money and also had enough keys to actually enter the shop. And the wise choice there would have been just to buy a spirit heart, or maybe even some other consumables, like maybe a card if there was one, because that would allow me not only to essentially survive more hits, but also potentially get a card that would allow me to get more consumables later down the road. But instead of doing that, I actually saved up enough money and actually used all of my bombs to try to get enough coins so I could actually buy Mom's Key. And you might say, but why Mom's Key? That's actually not that good of an item. And to some extent, you're right, it's not that good of an item. I mean, it is a good item, obviously, right? It definitely does increase your chances of actually getting more consumables and just increases your points overall that you're gonna get throughout the run. But at the same time, it's not an item that I would spend all of my money on and all of my resources on. So why did I do it in this particular instance? Well, one, like I said, was just a bit of fun. I like the item. I figured it was going to be exciting to open up a golden chest and have like 100 pennies spill out, because this is how this works. But at the same time, that particular shop had the layout which had 2 lucky pennies in it. I picked all of those up, obviously, and I figured because already was a 2 luck on the very first floor, having this item early is just going to kind of help snowball me and hopefully get more golden chests later down the road. And hopefully with those golden chests, I get more golden pennies. I mean, not golden ones. I think they're all golden, but lucky pennies. And by having more luck, I'm going to get even more golden chests, and hopefully, this is gonna snowball into something that I can say that it's gonna be a really, really strong run. And that's exactly what happened to some extent. Obviously, there's always that element of luck at play. I'm not saying this was like a calculated decision or anything, but this is how I figured the run could go, and that's exactly how it went. I'm not sure, if this was just a hunch, a lucky break or something, or maybe the 2 luck actually does increase your chance of getting more golden chests as a return. But for example, like on this exact room, having Mom's Key is just amazing, because not only does it allow you to get more consumables, or I would say it like this: ideally you get an item out of a golden chest, obviously, because you can then suck it up with a Void if it's a bad passive item, or if it's a good active item, you can just add it down to the collection. But if it's not an active item, because you have Mom's Key, you still have something to look forward to, and you can still always get just more consumables. And of course, with pennies, you can always get a lucky penny, or with maybe keys, you can get a charge key now, and you can even get the golden variants of bombs and keys. And just by having more consumables, you increase the odds of that actually happening. So you're just left in, I would say, in a very comfortable spot where you can utilize some of these mechanics of the game to really help yourself out. And I would say, like I said before, kind of snowball once you get past a certain luck threshold. But as I actually went through the floors, I would say that my consumable game kind of got increased by the fact I pick up Magneto. And again, Magneto is not a stellar item. I wouldn't even call it a good item, but it definitely does increase our, I would say, consumable consumption rate. And if it only brings you like 2 or 3 items that you otherwise would be unable to reach, it's already pretty much worth the asking price. And I would just generally never recommend not picking it up, because I don't think it can actually do anything negative for you. I think the only problem you might have with it is if you're trying to break the game and you walk into a room, then it's kind of annoying to dodge the keys as they're actually moving and following you, but I think that's still manageable and not something to be too concerned about. Obviously, there are always cases where Magneto is going to ruin the run, but I feel like it helps the run much more often, and for that, I think it's just a warranted pickup. Later on, the items we've gotten were basically DPS items except for BOGO bombs, and we're just able to kind of go out of control from that point forward. Because we're Judas, obviously every single damage upgrade that we do find is going to be a little bit more influential, because the natural damage multiplier of Judas is higher than most other characters. I think the only one that's higher is Dark Judas, but that's still an item and maybe more like a transformation than anything else. So just out of the base characters, I think the Judas has the highest inherent damage multiplier, and that's definitely what kind of helps us go along here. So even the fact we don't have any other damaging items other than Pentagram, and of course we have some DPS items like the Binky or the Pacifier, and we also have the other one, I think the Coat Hanger, and that allows us to be at 4 tier delay with basically 7 damage. It's not a ridiculous amount of damage, but it's definitely enough just to get through some of these rooms relatively quickly without really worrying about anything too much. At a certain point, we also got Cricket's Body, which is one of those really good items that synergizes really well with a lot of different ones, just because you basically make more tiers, and every time you make more tiers, and if there's an effect that affects tiers, that usually is a good recipe for disaster, and does really allow you to kind of spiral out of control. So as the run was going on here, still kind of evolving to some degree, we got a few more damaging items, but they weren't too influential. But one thing that definitely helped here is Tapeworm. And you might say, why would you pick up Tapeworm? Isn't that like almost a useless trinket? It only increases your range. And to a certain extent, that's true. But one thing you have to realize, first of all, we're approaching Hush. So having more range is always going to be more beneficial than just the ability to get more coins by blowing up rocks. But the second effect of Tapeworm here is because we picked up Cricket's Body, it actually reduced our effective range, but quite a considerable margin. And now that we have this trinket, that range is essentially not multiplied back, but essentially it's reset back to its original value. And what's even better maybe is because we have Cricket's Body, and now the secondary shots actually also get affected by this range upgrade, so they actually fly very far. And this is gonna be very useful later on once we get something else in return. But of course, as soon as I said that it's gonna be useful against Hush, I just realized I replaced it by Swallowed Penny. I could have sworn I actually picked this trinket on the next floor, but apparently I can't listen to my own advice. But the reason why I did pick up Tapeworm in the first place is definitely for the fact that it does allow you to have more range, and of course that's very useful with Cricket's Body, but also because we're just fighting an enemy, which requires you to have a lot of range if you want to be relatively safe. I did kind of finish off Hush in a relatively fast manner, mostly because Eye of Belial or Possessed tiers, and at the end here I'll actually just cut to the end boss fight because I feel like that's going to be a little bit more exciting. I definitely went to the chest, I kind of did all of the floors, I got a few items. You can see where this is heading, but as soon as the game slows down, I think you're really going to see the ridiculous nature of this run and to what it evolved to, especially with the sprinkler. So I just set it down, I just go to down, the Eye of Belial tiers are doing a job, they're kind of looping around in itself, and obviously every time they pass through an enemy, they turn into a more powerful version of themselves and they can damage them again. So it's just really, I would say, a ridiculous run. I really wasn't even able to see when Blue Baby was shooting at me, so I did get hit a few times, or maybe just once, I don't really remember. I didn't see it. Oh, it was definitely once, because I have it 11 Spirit. It doesn't matter, once, twice, or even 15 times, right? The important thing is, we are live, we finished the run, and we actually ranked in a pretty good spot, which I didn't think we really would. I guess rank bonus here is definitely played a big role, just because I got so many consumables out of the golden chest, and the fact we ranked in like top 15 is amazing. Even the fact we didn't go to boss rush, our damage penalty is relatively high, and the rest also isn't looking too good. Like exploration bonus could have definitely been a little bit better. And I just feel like we missed a lot of opportunities which would have allowed us to be just more successful. But as it turns out, sometimes, even performing in this manner is still better, because you're not competing against the ideal score, you're competing against other players. And if other players have a difficult run, like I think this one was, then you're gonna rank well if you just, I would say, do your homework and actually go to the game strategically. And that's exactly what we did. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and I hope to see you next time.